Welcome to Japanese Sleep Whispers, your sanctuary for peaceful nights and gentle dreams. Here, you will find calming bedtime stories inspired by the timeless beauty and traditions of Japan. Each story is read slowly in a soothing voice, accompanied by natural sounds such as flowing rivers and the tranquil rhythm of shishi-odoshi. Whether you seek relaxation, relief from stress, or help falling asleep, these tales invite you to drift away into a world of serenity. Imagine quiet temples, moonlit gardens, and the whispering bamboo forests as you listen. If you'd like these soothing stories to be part of your nightly routine, consider subscribing so they're always with you when you need them. Subscribe and let these stories be your nightly ritual of calm and rest. Thank you for being here. May you always find peace in every moment. Snowfall over a quiet ryokan. Prologue. Snow falling beyond silence. The mountains were already wrapped in a pale, soft winter dusk when the traveler arrived. Snowflakes drifted through the quiet air with the gentlest intention, settling on cedar branches, on the worn stones of the old pathway, on the thin sleeves of the traveler's coat. Their descent was slow, as if the entire world had chosen to move with a single, unhurried breath. Ahead, at the end of the narrow path, a solitary ryokan rested against the slope of the mountain. Its wooden eaves were heavy with snow, and faint. Warm light spilled softly from its paper windows, so faint that it seemed ready to disappear into the surrounding white at any moment. A low stream of smoke rose from the bathhouse chimney, curling into the still air like a whispered invitation. Somewhere within the wooden walls, hot spring water murmured, a soft and steady sound, like the memory of warmth in the middle of winter. The traveler paused at the last bend in the path, breathing in deeply. The air was cold enough to leave a thin, crystalline sweetness in the tongue. Even the breath that rose was quiet, as though it, too, respected the silence surrounding the ryokan. Snow continued to fall. A slow, steady snowfall, the kind that softens every sound until even the world's small noises, a shifting branch, a distant crow. The traveler's own steps seemed to drift away into stillness. The ryokan waited, calm and unmoving, as though it had stood there for 100 winters and would stand for 100 more. As the traveler approached the entrance, the wooden signboard hung motionless in the cold air, its calligraphy brushed long ago by a careful hand. The name of the inn was simple and quiet, just like the mountain that held it. The traveler brushed snow from their shoulders, feeling the quiet weight of winter settle into their body, not heavy, just present, just peaceful. A faint creaking from within the ryokan's timber frame announced itself, a soft, familiar sound that old buildings make when snow begins to settle on their roofs. It was not a sound of strain, but of acceptance, a gentle, wooden sigh. When the travelers slid open the entrance door, a wave of warm air wrapped around them, carrying with it the faint scent of cedar, tatami, and rising steam. It was the scent of deep quiet, the kind that winter lays carefully across hidden places in the mountains. The travelers stepped inside. Outside, the snowfall continued slow, unhurried, a soft veil passing through the evening. Inside, warmth waited. A quiet beginning to a night held gently in the arms of winter. Chapter 1: The Quiet Entrance Hall. The sliding door closed softly behind the traveler, and the outside world, the snow, the forest, the long path through the mountains, fell away into silence. Inside the entrance hall, warm light pooled gently across the wooden floorboards, glowing in soft amber tones. The lanterns along the walls were dimmed low, their paper shades breathing a faint warmth into the quiet air. The travelers stood still for a moment, allowing the shift in temperature, in atmosphere, in sound, to settle slowly into their body. The warmth of the ryokan was not strong or overwhelming. It was the kind of warmth that feels like a memory, familiar, welcoming, gentle. The air carried a faint scent of old cedar, soaked over many years with winter steam and summer breezes. Tatami, dry and clean, added its soft fragrance to the room. Somewhere farther inside, hot spring water echoed in a small, steady rhythm, like a distant whisper. The traveler knelt to remove their shoes, placing them neatly beside the wooden step. The floor beneath their socks was pleasantly warm, heated by a hidden channel running quietly beneath the boards. The warmth rose through the soles of their feet with a slow, comforting ease. Beyond the entrance, a long corridor stretched forward, its polished wooden planks reflecting the soft glow of lantern light. The corridor was empty, the air perfectly still, as though it had been waiting all day for someone to walk its length. The traveler bowed their heads slightly, a small gesture of respect toward the silent space, and stepped forward. The sound of each step was hushed by the warmth of the wood. Even the faint creak beneath the traveler's weight seemed softened by the winter air, transforming into a low, gentle sigh that drifted away almost instantly. Along the corridor, sliding doors of pale paper lined the walls. Some were closed, glowing faintly with warm light seeping from within. Others were open just a finger's width, revealing the dim shapes of tatami rooms waiting quietly in the shadows. The traveler paused beside one such door. Through the narrow opening, they could see an empty tea set placed neatly on a low table, 2 cups, a clay pot, a small wooden tray. The arrangement felt like a remnant of someone's peaceful moment earlier in the day, now resting in the stillness of the evening. The silent warmth of the ryokan seemed to gather around the traveler the farther they walked. Each step felt slower than the one before, as though the inn itself encouraged unhurried movement, inviting the traveler to match the pace of falling snow outside. At the end of the corridor, a small alcove held a single vase with a winter sprig of pine. The needles were deep green, carrying a hint of resin in the air, quiet but unmistakable. A single white camellia rested beside it, its petals soft, its presence delicate against the simplicity of the wooden alcove. The traveler stood before the arrangement for a long moment, feeling the quiet calm of winter greenery sink gently into their chest. Far beyond the walls, the muffled sound of snowfall continued, so faint, so steady, that it felt less like weather and more like breath. The traveler exhaled slowly, their breath blending with the warm air of the corridor, their body unwinding from the long journey through the mountains. There was no hurry, no need to speak, no expectations waiting in the next room. Only the slow drift of warmth, the soft weight of snow outside, and the quiet embrace of a ryokan hidden deep in winter. Chapter 2: The room by the snowy window. The sliding door opened, and the travelers stepped into their room. The air inside was warmer, softer, wrapped in the quiet scent of tatami and cedar. A single paper lantern hung from the ceiling, its glow gentle and unassuming. Shadows shifted slightly with the flicker of light, dancing across the walls like slow-moving clouds. The room was empty, yet it did not feel lonely. It was waiting and waiting for presence, for stillness, for gentle attention. The traveler set down their bag carefully, the soft thud of it on the wooden floor echoing faintly in the hushed room. Every sound here seemed to carry and then dissolve, as if absorbed by the quiet wall sand, the snow outside. Sliding open the window, the traveler was met with the soft white of falling snow. The garden beyond the room lay hidden beneath a blanket of winter, its shapes softened, its edges blurred. Cedar branches drooped under the weight of snow, their dark green needles glinting faintly in the lantern light. Even the stones of the garden path appeared softened, their outlines barely visible, as though the world had become a slow, gentle painting. The snow fell steadily, each flake deliberate and slow, drifting through the cold air before resting on branches, roofs, and ground. The sound of it was a quiet hush, softening the distant wind, muting the mountains, and silencing all the small, hidden noises of the forested valley. The traveler sank onto the tatami mat, kneeling slowly, deliberately, letting the warmth of the room spread beneath their legs. The cold from the mountains remained faint at the edges, touching fingertips and nose, reminding the moth the vast, silent world. Outside, while still holding the quiet safety of the inn, steam rose gently from a small teacup on the low table. The liquid glimmered in the lantern light, its surface moving softly with the heat. The traveler lifted it to their lips, sipping slowly, letting the warmth melt into their chest, into the quiet rhythm of breath and heartbeat. Outside, a branch scraped lightly against the window pane. The sound was soft, almost tender, like the world itself stretching in sleep. Another flake landed on the sill, its tiny weight almost imperceptible, and the traveler watched it dissolving to the cold wood, a quiet reminder of the passing of moments, each one gentle, deliberate, slow. The room held other sounds, subtle and faint: the creak of the ceiling beam settling, the distant drip of melted snow from the roof, the soft hum of warm air moving across the tatami. Each sound was like a quiet companion, welcoming the traveler into a slower rhythm, a world measured in heartbeats and snowflakes. The traveler lay back slowly, letting the tatami embrace their weight. Eyes half closed, they could see the lantern light shifting gently, the snow drifting past the window, and the shadows of cedar branches moving imperceptibly with the wind. A soft sigh escaped them, not from exhaustion, but from the quiet pleasure of being here, alone, in a place where time itself seemed to rest. The snow fell, the room remained warm, and the traveler sank deeper into the stillness. Outside, the mountains waited, covered in white, silent, infinite. Inside, the ryokan breathed softly around them, wood, tatami, lantern light, all holding the gentle pause between day and night, between wakefulness and the approaching sleep. And in this quiet, the traveler's thoughts began to float, slowing, softening, carried away by the steady rhythm of snowfall, by the warm embrace of the inn, and by the slow, gentle passage of a single winter evening. Chapter 3: The Winter Bath. The traveler rose slowly, moving toward the bathhouse at the far end of the ryokan. Each step on the polished wooden floor was quiet, deliberate, echoing softly through the still corridors. Steam rose faintly from the open door, blurring the edges of the room and carrying a warm, mineral scent that mingled with the faint fragrance of cedar. Outside, snow continued to fall, softly settling on the eaves, on the stone path, on the wooden rails of the small veranda. Each flake landed lightly, its sound almost imperceptible, as if the mountains themselves were breathing slowly, holding their quiet in the cold air. The traveler entered the bath. Warm water embraced them immediately, its heat gentle, deep, flowing around the body and releasing the tension of travel, of muscles contracted by the cold outside. Steam rose in delicate tendrils, coiling lazily around the lantern light. It was a soft, whispering presence, blurring the boundary between the body and the room, between the self and the world outside the window. The sound of falling snow reached the bathhouse, softly tapping on the roof, rolling lightly over the distant branches. It mixed with the quiet hum of water, creating a rhythm so slow and regular that it felt like a lullaby woven from the elements themselves. The traveler closed their eyes, letting the warmth of the water and the soft weight of steam settle over their shoulders, flow through their arms, sink into their chest and legs. A single branch scraped the edge of the roof, sending a gentle, hollow tip into the water. The traveler let it roll over them, letting the tiny sound become part of the rhythm of breath, the rhythm of the day's slow ending. Snow accumulated quietly on the stones outside, turning the garden into a soft, white space. Through the open window, the traveler could see its delicate patterns, its slow transformation of the world into silence, and they sank deeper into the bath, feeling the stillness reflected in each tiny, floating flake. The warmth and the snow, the wooden beams and the lantern light, and the gentle rhythm of water moving around the body folded together into a quiet, seamless presence. Each breath became slower, softer, as if the inn itself had taught the traveler the exact pace of winter's calm. A faint whistle of wind moved through the valley, touching the surface of the bath with a whisper. It did not chill, it only reminded the traveler that the world outside was vast, white, and infinite, and yet here, inside the warm, quiet ryokan, nothing needed to be rushed. The traveler leaned back, letting the steam rise fully, closing their eyes completely. The warmth, the water, the snow, and the stillness of the mountains folded together into one continuous, soft note. And in that note, the traveler began to feel the slow, steady pull of sleep, not sudden, not urgent, but gentle, insistent, like the falling snow itself, coating every thought, every sound, every breath with a quiet, perfect hush. Outside, the snow fell. Inside, the water whispered. And the traveler floated between warmth and cold, light and shadow, wakefulness and sleep, carried on the soft current of a winter evening in the mountains. Chapter 4 Night deepens over the ryokan. The traveler returned to their room with steps so slow they seemed almost like part of the building itself, as if the wooden floor, the dim lantern light, and the quiet winter air were guiding their movement. When the sliding door closed behind them, the room welcomed them with a steady, gentle warmth that felt even softer after the heat of the bath. A single lantern glowed near the far wall, its light dim and steady, barely enough to fill the corners of the room. It cast soft shadows across the tatami, shadows that drifted slowly whenever the flame bent or breathed. The traveler walked to the low table and poured the rest of the tea. The liquid shimmered, a faint wisp of steam rising into the air, curling in a slow, spiraling motion before fading into nothing. Even the tea's warmth felt unhurried, as if it, too, understood the rhythm of the snowy mountain night. Outside the window, the snow continued to fall with the same slow patience that had filled the mountains since dusk. Each flake descended as if it had all the time in the world, drifting through the lantern's light, glowing faintly before settling on the sill. The traveler slid open the window just a finger's width. Cold air slipped in, not harsh, not biting, but cool enough to carry the scent of snow and distant cedar. That thin line of cold balanced perfectly with the soft warmth of the room, creating a gentle border between the world outside and the warmth within. The traveler moved toward the futon already laid out on the tatami. The white fabric was smooth, cool to the touch, waiting quietly like fresh snow untouched by wind. They sat, letting the futon sink slightly under their weight, feeling the cotton and the tatami beneath accept them without resistance. Then, slowly, they lay down. The ceiling beams overhead were dim in the lantern light, their wooden grains soft like quiet rivers running through the room. The traveler watched them for a moment, watched how the shadows shifted ever so slowly as the lantern flickered. Breath softened. Muscles released their last tension. The warmth of the bath lingered in arms, in legs, in the slow beat of the heart. Outside, the snow's hush deepened. The world beyond the window was now a single sheet of white silence, broken only by the faintest sound, a small sigh of wind against the branches, a soft pat of snow sliding from a pine, a distant, muffled ripple from the mountain stream. Each sound was spaced far apart, as if time itself had begun to stretch. The traveler closed their eyes. In the darkness behind the eyelids, the light of the lantern remained like a soft afterimage, a warm glow that drifted gently like a floating ember. They listened to the nearly silent world, their own quiet breath, the soft beating of the heart, and behind it, the sound of snow settling on the earth. Everything moved slowly, even thoughts. They rose and fell like feathers drifting in still air, never lingering long, never speaking loudly, simply appearing, softening, and fading away. The traveler turned slightly, feeling the futon shape itself to their body. The air from the window touched their cheek, lightly cool, quiet, carrying with it the faint, clean scent of fresh snow. And the room's warmth held the rest of them, cradling their weight, their breath, their slow transition toward sleep. Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, the lantern glowed softly. The night deepened, quiet and gentle, a blanket of silence spreading over the mountains, over the ryokan, over the traveler's slowly drifting mind. Sleep hovered near, warm and white like the world outside the window, waiting, inviting, already beginning to soften the edges of everything. Chapter 5: The Silent Hours Before Dawn. The ryokan had grown completely still. Even the faint footsteps of distant guests, the soft rattle of tableware, and the whispered movements of the staff had disappeared into the quiet of the night. Now, only the mountain remained awake, and even it breathed with slow, gentle pauses. The traveler lay in the futon, eyes half closed, floating in that soft place between waking and sleep. The lantern had dimmed, its flame now barely a flicker behind the paper shade. Its light trembled like a small heartbeat, a final, warm glow that watched over the room without moving. Outside, snow continued its endless, patient descent. The flakes were larger now, slow, wide, drifting like feathers set loose in a dream. Sometimes they touched the window with a faint, delicate sound, a tiny tap that barely broke the silence. Other times they passed silently, leaving no mark at all, disappearing into the darkness as if returning to the night itself. The traveler breathed in. The room's warmth filled their lungs. They breathed out. The cool winter air brushed their cheek. The world became the space between these two breaths. A quiet creak echoed in the rafters, not a disturbance, but a settling, as if the ryokan itself were shifting into a deeper rest. Wood expanded softly. Tatami released a faint, gentle sigh, and the traveler felt as though they were lying inside the warm body of the building itself. Time slowed. Minutes stretched long, thin and quiet like the trail of smoke rising from extinguished incense. The traveler's thoughts came in soft, distant shapes, barely forming before drifting apart. A memory of footsteps in the snow. A warm cup of tea. The sound of the bath. The lantern's glow. All of them floating away like little boats on still water. Outside, the mountain wind shifted ever so slightly. Not a gust, just a new angle, a gentle turn, changing the direction of the falling snow. It made the eaves hum softly, a quiet, round note, almost like a low flute played far across the valley. The traveler listened, not actively, not sharply, but with the soft, open attention that comes just before sleep. The snow deepened. Its weight gathered on the branches with such delicate care that each pine seemed to bow, not from burden, but from reverence for the quiet night. Now and then, a bit of snow slid from a branch, falling in a soft rush, a sound like a sigh, like a blanket being pulled over a resting figure. Inside, the traveler felt their pulse slow and slow, again matching the pace of the snowfall, as if their body were syncing with the rhythm of the mountains themselves. The lantern's light dimmed once more, its flame bending low with a quiet flutter. Shadows softened, edges blurred. The ceiling beams melted into darkness, their lines dissolving like ink fading in water. The traveler shifted slightly, just enough to let the futon cradle the weight of their shoulders. The fabric welcomed the new shape without a sound. Breathe deep. Breathe softly. Breathe slowly. Outside, only snow remained. Inside, only warmth remained. And between them, the traveler floated as though held gently in the palm of the night. In these silent hours before dawn, the world was reduced to breath, to warmth, to snow, to stillness, and the traveler sank deeper into the quiet that waited beneath all things. Chapter 6 Dreams Beneath the Snowfall. The night had settled into its deepest quiet. It was the kind of silence that did not merely surround the ryokan it filled. It, flowing through the walls, the beams, the tatami, and into the very air the traveler breathed. The traveler lay still, half covered by the futon, their mind drifting in slow circles just beneath the surface of sleep. The lantern had faded entirely now. The last of its warm glow dissolved into the room like a small ember finally surrendering to the dark. But the darkness itself was gentle, not heavy, not deep, but soft, like the inside of a warm coat or the space beneath a blanket. Outside, the snowfall continued, but its sound had thinned into something lighter, finer, as though the flakes had become smaller, the world had drawn farther away. The traveler could barely distinguish it now. It was no longer a pattern of separate sounds, not taps, not sighs, not distant movements. It had blended into a single, continuous murmur, a soft thread of sound woven through the darkness. If the traveler tried to listen closely, the sound slipped away, as though it existed only when the mind relaxed and let it be. They breathed in. The world brightened faintly behind closed eyelids. They breathed out. Everything dimmed again. Thoughts drifted slowly, no longer to time or memory. A white path winding through a forest. A warm bath glowing with steam. Lanterns flickering behind paper walls. Footsteps in fresh snow. An unseen mountain river moving under ice. None of them stayed. None of them mattered. Each thought appeared and then simply dissolved, like snowflakes melting the instant they touched warm hands. The traveler turned slightly, though they barely felt their own movement. The futon adjusted, soft and silent, as if anticipating their comfort before they knew they needed it. Outside, the snowfall thickened again, but even that change was muted, soothing, a gentle deepening of the night's steady rhythm. A distant sound reached the room. Not wind, not snow, but something calmer, slow groan of a heavy branch settling under its new weight. It carried through the valley like a long, quiet breath, before fading back into the blanket of white silence. The traveler's breathing fell into that rhythm, slow, deep, then softer, then slower still. Their body felt lighter, as though the futon had become a cloudor. A bank of snow, lifting them, supporting them, keeping them suspended in a place between warmth and winter. Their mind drifted. The boundary between waking thoughts and early dream shapes blurred gently. A lantern glowing in falling snow. Steam rising in a pale blue night. Footprints leading nowhere. The quiet, patient face of a mountain watching over the valley. In the traveler's half-dream state, nothing had edges. Everything was soft colors muted, sounds rounded, shadows blending into light. The snow outside seemed to breathe, its rhythm syncing with the traveler's drifting consciousness. And slowly, carefully, effortlessly, the traveler felt themselves slipping deeper into warmth, deeper into quiet, deeper into the soft current of a winter night that had no urgency, no demands, no end. The world became a dim, white field. Breath moved softly. Snow whispered. And the traveler floated downward toward the first shapes of sleep. Chapter 7 The Ryokan That Dreams. The traveler drifted in a place with no edges, a space between breath and sleep, between silence and the faintest echoes of sound. Their eyes remained closed, yet the world continued to arrive in soft shapes and slow, glowing impressions. Somewhere in that half-dreaming space, the ryokan felt alive, not awake, not moving, but breathing in long, gentle intervals, its wooden bones expanding and settling like a creature resting in deep warmth. The traveler sensed it the way one senses a blanket drawn up to the shoulders in a cold night, without looking, without thinking, only feeling. The snow outside had thickened once more. It fell in wide, slow spirals, as though gravity itself had grown drowsy. and the sound of it, if it could be called sound, was now a soft pulse woven into the night. The traveler drifted lower. In their mind, soft, indistinct images began to rise like lanterns lifting through fog. A corridor glowing faintly with amber light. A sliding door is half open, revealing a garden blurred by falling snow. A cup of tea warm in the hands, though the heat was only a memory. The faint scent of cedar and tatami, familiar and dreamlike at once. Each image shimmered, wavered, dissolved into white. None of them lingered long enough to form a story. They flowed gently from one to the next, like thoughts carried in a slow-moving river. The traveler's breath became shallower, softer, almost motionless. The ryokan responded in turn. Its beams creaked faintly, a gentle, sleepy sound like a sigh beneath blankets. The wind outside shifted its tone, blowing across the roof as softly as a hand brushing fabric. The paper wall shelled the darkness carefully, warming it so it felt no longer cold. In this shared quiet, the traveler felt as though they and the ryokan were dreaming the same dream. The snow's rhythm became part of their heartbeat. The room's warmth became part of their breath. The subtle scent of wood and winter became part of their drifting mind. A soft glow appeared, not bright, not sharp, but a pale radiance, as if moonlight had seeped into the traveler's closed eyes. They did not open them, yet they felt the light bloom softly like a flower made of mist. Shapes formed within it, not clear, not detailed, just outlines: the curve of a hill, the roof of the ryokan, a lantern swaying in gentle wind, snow falling in long white threads. These images drifted past without urgency. They had no weight, no direction, only a soft presence, like dust floating through a sunlit room. The traveler sank deeper. Thoughts thinned until they became silky strands of feeling. Warmth, quiet, snow, soft light, the steady rhythm of a night with no demands. The futon embraced them, its weight gentle, its fabric cooling slowly against the warmth of skin. Even the pillow seemed to cradle the traveler as if to keep their dreaming from slipping away. Outside, the valley exhaled again, a long, slow breath that carried across the mountainside and brushed the ryokan's outer walls with the softness of drifting powder. Inside, the traveler followed that breath downward, deeper, into the softest darkness, not empty, not cold, but full of warmth and snow and sleep. The ryokan settled with them, its wooden beams relaxing into a stillness almost indistinguishable from peace. And in that moment, traveler and building dreamed together, their rhythms matching, their quiet merging, until It was impossible to tell where one ended and the other began. The night held them both in its calm, white hands. And the traveler drifted even deeper into the quiet beneath all things. Chapter 8: The Soundless Snowfield of Dreams. There was no more lantern light. No more wooden beams above. No ceiling, no window, no sense of the small room where the traveler had lain. Instead, the world around them had opened like a soft fold of fabric, spreading into a vast whiteness, a snowfield stretching gently in every direction, without horizon, without shadows, without cold. The traveler did not stand upon it. They floated just above it, as weightless as a single snowflake caught in a still moment of air. There was no wind here. No movement. Only the quiet presence of endless, gentle white, a quiet so deep it felt like the world God laying down to sleep beneath a blanket of its own making. The traveler's breath seemed to dissolve into the snowfield, blending with its stillness as though breath itself had always been made of winter air. Thoughts no longer formed. They did not rise, did not fade. What remained was something softer, a drifting awareness without edges, like the faint glow inside closed eyes. If this were a dream, it had no story. If this were sleep, it had no depth left to descend. It simply existed, quiet and boundless, shaped entirely from the gentlest possible quiet. The snowfall continued, but even here it made no sound. Flakes descended in slow spirals, falling through the traveler as though the body were made of air. Each flake was soft light, pale and weightless, disappearing the instant it touched the wide, white ground. The traveler felt as though they, too, were dissolving, not disappearing, but becoming part of the snowfield, resting in the calm spread across it. Somewhere, far in the distance, a faint memory stirred. A warm cup of tea. Steam curls upward. The creak of a wooden beam. The soft tap of snow on a paper window. But the memory drifted like a leaf in slow water, and soon it vanished, melting into the white. The ryokan's presence still lingered, gentle, steady, like a familiar warmth resting on the traveler's back. But here, in this snowfield of dreams, the ryokan felt less like a building and more like a guardian of quiet, a warm outline watching over the traveler from somewhere beyond sight. The traveler allowed themselves to sink deeper. Not into sleep, for sleep had already taken them, but into the calm beneath sleep, the soft space where even dreams rest their heads. The snowfield brightened slightly. Not as morning light, not as lantern glow, but as a natural softening, a gentle washing of the world in pale luminance. The traveler drifted through it, a single point of warmth moving slowly through an endless quiet. No hurry, no sound, no weight, only the feeling of being carried by a world that had forgotten all urgency. The snow fell. The field shimmered. The traveler breathed. And everything rested. Chapter 9 The Quiet Beneath All Things. There was no snow now. No falling flakes. No drifting spirals. No gentle white shapes descending from a distant sky. There was only quiet. A quiet so deep, so soft, that even silence seemed too large a word for it. The traveler floated in a stillness without depth, without direction. Not up, not down, not forward, not back. Only here a place without edges, without borders, without time. The faint memory of the snowfields glow faded slowly, as though wrapped in layers of soft cloth. The light dimmed to a pale breath, and then to nothing. Yet the darkness held no cold. It was warm, like the space beneath blankets, like a hand resting gently over the heart. Breath slowed to a soft rhythm barely felt, not an effort, not a motion, just a gentle presence. A tide moving in and out beneath layers of deep sleep. Thoughts ceased entirely. Even the faint drifting shapes that had once risen and fallen like lanterns in fog were gone. What remained was sensation without shape, warmth, weightlessness, a faint hum that might have been the body, or might have been the world, or might have been nothing at all. The traveler rested more deeply. The ryokan, somewhere far behind in the waking world, still held them its warmth, its wooden frame, its gentle mountain air, but these things were now only echoes. Gentle outlines beneath many layers of soft, sleep-like quiet. Here, in this place, the traveler felt no boundary between themselves and the dream that held them. They were not lying on a futon. They were not breathing winter air. They were not hearing snowfall or lantern flame or the whisper of wind. They were simply resting, deep, deep within the quiet beneath all things. The kind of quiet that exists only in the deepest sleep, where the world grows soft, the body grows light, and the heart beats slowly in the rhythm of winter. Time loosened. Its threads unwound gently, falling into a calm where moments no longer stood apart. The traveler felt themselves sink slightly, not downward, but inward, as though resting deeper into their own warmth. There was no fear, no sound, no change, only rest, soft, complete, surrounding them like a blanket of stillness woven from snow, from dreams, from the quiet of a winter night in the mountains. The traveler breathed once more, a slow, soft breath, and everything settled. No thought, no sound, just peace, pure peace. And the traveler slipped entirely into the deepest part of sleep. Chapter 10 The First Light Beyond Sleep. In the deepest quiet where the traveler rested, a faint change began, so soft that it was not sound nor movement nor thought. It was simply light. Not enough to brighten the darkness, not enough to form shapes or lines, but a gentle presence, like the first pale hint of dawn far behind closed lids. The traveler did not stir. Their breath remained slow, steady, sinking in and out like waves beneath ice. But somewhere beyond sleep, beyond dream, beyond the warm darkness that held them, the world outside was shifting ever so slightly. Snow continued to fall, but it glowed now, a faint shimmer caught in a distant early light that had not yet reached the Rio Canner, the mountains, nor even the valley floor. It hovered in the far edge of night, waiting. Within the traveler's dreamless rest, the quiet deepened. The softness of the futon, the warmth of the room, the slow mountain air, all of it remained far above their sleeping mind. Yet the light, that faint, pale breath of dawn, began to seep into the darkness like diluted ink touching still water. It spread without urgency, without direction, a gentle bloom forming within the quiet. The traveler felt none of this sensation. It touched them only as a whisper of warmth, a softening of shadows, a weightless glow beneath the surface of sleep. Their breath loosened slightly, a small shift, barely noticeable, yet it flowed with a hint of ease, as though responding to something distant and gentle. Outside, the mountains stood silent, their outlines slowly emerging beneath the sky that had begun to lighten. The ryokan, still cradling the traveler in its warm wooden frame, seemed to breathe with them, a long, slow exhale moving through its beams as dawn drew nearer. But within the traveler's sleep, the world remained hushed. No voices, no thoughts, no images rose. Only the faintest feeling of warmth slowly unfurling. A pale thread of light woven into the darkness. A soft glow in the horizon of dreams. Not enough to wake. Not enough to stir. Just enough to whisper that night was beginning its gentle turn. The traveler floated deeper, their body and breath relaxed, entirely held by the quiet, by the warmth, by the soft pulse of the mountain night as it shifted toward the earliest moment before dawn. And the faint light continued to grow inside the silence, as gently as snow landing on snow, as slow as the world waking from its own peaceful rest. Final chapter: Dawn over the sleeping ryokan. The first touch of morning did not arrive as brightness, nor as sound, nor as any clear awakening. It came as warmth. A warmth so soft that it felt like the memory of sunlight, a distant echo of something gentle beyond the closed world of sleep. The traveler remained still, their breath slow, their body held easily within the futon's embrace. Sleep wrapped them with the same quiet assurance as the snow that lay deep across the mountains. Outside, the night had retreated to the far edges of the valley. Its indigo hue lightened shade at a time a barely perceptible shift, as if the darkness were being washed by thin waves of pale morning. Snow continued to fall, but now each flake seemed to carry a faint inner glow, catching the earliest scatterings of daylight before they reached the earth. The ryokan stood as it had through the night, silent, steady, cradling its sleeping guest within walls warmed by lingering heat and the gentle memory of still burning embers. Paper screens, faintly kissed by the new day, brightened at their edges. The light did not spill in abruptly, it seeped through wood and paper like warm breath through cupped hands. Inside the traveler's rest, peace held firm. Sleep did not loosen but deepen, as though the softening light invited the body to sink even more tenderly into its quiet. Breath rose and fell with a rhythm that matched the mountains, slow, deliberate, ancient. The warmth grew, reaching their hands, their face, the gentle slopes of their shoulders. Not enough to wake, only enough to soothe, to ease the last remnants of night's coolness. Outside, a single bird shifted lightly on a snow-covered branch, not singing, not calling, only moving, as though adjusting its feathers to the brightening world. Far beyond the valley, sunlight touched the highest peak, a thin line of gold running along its crest. The glow spread downward, slow as drifting snow, gentle as a dream still holding on. The ryokan's roof caught the morning light next. A shimmer spread across its layer of fresh snow, as though the entire building were wrapped in pale silk. Within the room, the air warmed slightly. It carried a faint scent of cedar and tatami, clean, soft fragrances that had slept through the winter night. The traveler breathed in, just once, a slightly deeper breath, not a stir, not a waking, but a subtle invitation from the morning to rest even more fully. Their body relaxed further, sinking into the futon as though gravity itself had grown gentle. The room brightened to the color of warm milk. The snow outside glowed softly, a quiet mirror to the light within. And the traveler remained in peaceful silence, held between sleep and the hushed beginning of day. There was no need to rise, no need to open eyes, no need to let go the warm comfort that had carried them through the snowy night. The world outside welcomed dawn. The world inside welcomed rest. And in that soft crossing between night and morning, the traveler drifted deep in calm, wrapped in quiet, cradled by the mountains, by the ryokan, by the gentle light of a winter dawn. The snow fell. The day warmed. and sleep remain. Perfect, peaceful, unbroken. Morning mist in the bamboo forest. Prologue. Breath of the morning bamboo. In the early hours, before the sun had fully risen, the bamboo forest exhaled a long, slow breath of mist. It drifted between the tall, slender stalks, pale, silver-white ribbons unfolding in the cool air, moving with the calm rhythm of a quiet, sleeping world. The traveler walked alone, their steps soft upon the damp earth, each footprint disappearing beneath thin veils of morning fog. Nothing stirred. No birds yet. No insects. Only the long whisper of bamboo leaves shifting gently overhead, a sound almost too delicate to be called sound at all. The air held the faint scent of wet earth and green shoots, fresh and tender at the beginning of the day. It felt cool against the skin, but never cold, as though the forest itself offered a calm, steady embrace. The traveler paused beneath the tallest grove, where the bamboo rose straight into the pale sky, their tops fading into drifting layers of mist. A breeze moved through, soft, slow, a wandering breath that touched the leaves and sent a quiet ripple through the forest canopy. Light began to gather, not sharp, not sudden, but gentle, a soft radiance that filtered through the mist like amber ink through water. The traveler breathed in. The air entered warm, left cooler, a calm tide that matched the forest's own rhythm. Somewhere deeper in the grove, a drop of water fell, a single, tiny sound, barely audible, yet clear in the stillness. It echoed softly and vanished. The world felt suspended, as though time itself was resting, moving only as slowly as the drifting mist. Here, in this place, there was no need for thought, no need for hurry, no need for anything but the quiet presence of the forest. The traveler closed their eyes. The bamboo whispered. The mist curled gently at their feet. And morning continued to unfold, soft, slow, and endlessly calm. Chapter 1. Walking through the mist. The traveler's feet moved carefully, softly pressing against the damp soil, leaves rustling faintly under each step, yet every sound was absorbed by the thick veil of morning mist. The bamboo rose on either side, slender stalks stretching high into the pale light, their green fading into layers of fog. The forest seemed endless, its silence measured in slow pulses, like a heartbeat barely perceptible beneath the mist's gentle weight. Each step was deliberate. The traveler did not rush. There was nowhere to go, and no need to arrive. Every motion was an echo of the calm forest, every breath a soft wave blending with the cool air. Water clung to leaves. It formed tiny beads that trembled slightly before dropping to the earth, each sound a delicate, fleeting noting the vast, quiet symphony of the bamboo grove. The mist shifted. It swirled around stalks, coiled around the traveler's legs, then floated upward, filling the spaces between leaves and branches with slow, liquid motion. It was as if the forest itself was breathing, and the traveler was only a quiet witness to its slow rhythm. Light filtered through the bamboo. Not bright, not intrusive. It dripped in thin, pale lines, glimmering on wet leaves, dissolving into the fog. Shadows blurred and bent, the edges of reality softened by the mist and the stillness of the air. The traveler lifted a hand to touch a stalk. It was cool, smooth, alive. A tiny vibration ran through the fingers as the bamboo swayed slightly in the unseen breeze. The sound was almost imperceptible, a sigh carried by the mist and absorbed immediately by silence. A small bird moved high above, its shape barely visible through the layers of fog. It made no noise. Its wings brushed the air softly, leaving only the sensation of movement in a world otherwise still. The traveler's breathing slowed. Each inhalation drew in mist, soft and cool. Each exhalation returned warm, settling back into the quiet rhythm of the forest. Here, every motion and every sound was magnified and then dissolved, like tiny droplets of ink falling into water. The traveler paused again. Looking around, they saw the forest bend and stretch with every movement of the mist, light shifting, leaves trembling with the softest possible gestures. Time itself seemed suspended. Minutes stretched long, soft and pliable, carried only by the rhythm of steps, breath, and the slow dance of mist. The traveler continued walking, slowly, deliberately. The forest unfolded endlessly around them, each step sinking quietly into moss, each breath blending with mist, each heartbeat echoing in the vast calm. And as they moved, the bamboo whispered. The mist curled. The pale light wove in and out of leaves and stalks, a soft, flowing symphony meant only for those who could hear in stillness. The traveler walked. The forest waited. And the morning, soft, slow, and endless, continued to breathe. Chapter 2: The Breath of the Forest. The mist thickened as the traveler moved deeper into the grove. Each step sank slightly into soft, damp earth, leaving a quiet imprint that vanished almost as soon as it was made. The bamboo around them rose taller, their stalks smooth and glistening with dew. Water clung to the leaves in tiny droplets, each trembling faintly before it fell. The drops hit the soil with a muted tap, and the sound dissolved immediately into the vast quiet of the morning. The traveler slowed. Every inhalation drew the scent of wet green, of bamboo, of moss, of earth dampened by night. The exhalation mingled with mist, rising in soft spiral sand disappearing into the veil of the forest. Light sifted through the fog, scattering into countless narrow shafts, touching only parts of the forest floor. It shimmered softly on each droplet, turning them into fleeting sparks that faded before the eyes could fully catch them. Shadows softened, blurred, like ink dispersing in water. A barely perceptible breeze shifted leaves high above. The bamboo swayed, almost imperceptibly, sending a delicate rustle through the thick mist. It was a rhythm not of wind alone, but of the forest itself. Breathing slowly, a gentle pulse that reached the traveler and slowed their heartbeat to match its own. The traveler lifted a hand, letting the mist brush their fingertips. It was cool, almost weightless, like air folded into water. Each droplet that landed dissolved immediately, leaving only a sense of damp, of quiet touch, of connection to the living bamboo around them. Time had no urgency here. Minutes stretched, folding softly over one another like mist over the mountains. Even footsteps seemed reluctant to leave a mark on the forest floor, as if respecting the infinite calm that surrounded everything. The traveler paused beneath a particularly dense cluster of bamboo. The stalks formed a gentle wall, through which light filtered slowly, pale and wavering. A drop of water fell from a high leaf, plopping silently into a small puddle. The sound, though faint, seemed to echo forever, then vanished into the forest's soft, breathing silence. The mist coiled and shifted, curling around the traveler's legs, then rising to envelop them completely. It blurred the edges of the world, softening the outlines of bamboo, soil, and sky. All forms merged into a single, gentle gray-green light, and the forest became one slow, undulating presence. The traveler's breath deepened, each inhalation carrying the forest inside them, each exhalation returning their warmth to the mist. Their body felt lighter, their limbs loose and relaxed, their mind quieting, fading gently into the rhythm of the forest itself. Somewhere in the distance, a single droplet fell from a higher stalk, then another, then a soft chain of small taps that drifted like a melody through the fog. Not music, exactly, but a rhythm as gentle and persistent as sleep itself. The traveler closed their eyes. They felt the mist swirl, felt the bamboo sway, felt the slow, steady pulse of life that flowed invisibly through every stalk, every leaf, every breath of air. And the forest held them, softly, completely, as if wrapping the traveler in its own quiet heartbeat. Slowly, imperceptibly, the mist and the traveler's mind began to merge. The sound of water falling, the touch of wet bamboo, the soft shift of light all became one continuous, gentle presence. Thoughts faded further, and the traveler felt the pull of drowsiness, a soft, irresistible descending to rest. Outside the veil of fog, the world remained unchanged, but inside this small, green universe, time itself had become a gentle tide, and the traveler was floating within it, carried by the breath of the bamboo forest. Chapter 3: Mist and Whispers. The mist thickened further, folding in layers so dense that the bamboo stalks seemed to dissolve into pale, shifting ribbons. Each step of the traveler was swallowed instantly by the fog. No footprints remained. No sound lingered. Only the soft, continuous sigh of the forest. Water dripped rhythmically from leaves above. Each droplet fell with a delicate note, plinking into small pools below. The sound was gentle, like a lullaby barely audible, and it traveled slowly through the mist, echoing and fading in endless, soft repetition. The bamboo swayed with a subtle grace, tilting and bowing as if it were breathing. The traveler felt it in their chest, a quiet pulse that mirrored their own heartbeat. Their breath slowed further, matching the rhythm of leaves and mist, so that their body seemed part of the forest itself. Light filtered through the fog in fractured beams, soft and pale. It shifted constantly, painting fleeting patterns on the damp earth, glimmering briefly on water droplets before fading into gray-green haze. The forest appeared alive, but moving in a dreamlike, fluid time, where nothing had sharp edges, and nothing demanded attention. The traveler lifted a hand. Mist clung to their fingers, soft and cool, a weightless caress. It felt like liquid air, flowing with a gentle persistence, circling their hand, then dissolving silently into the fog. Occasionally, a droplet would fall close, its tiny sound magnified by the surrounding silence. It echoed once, then faded into the soft sigh of bamboo leaves. Every sound was delicate, isolated, and then gone, leaving a lingering sense of deep, almost imperceptible motion. The traveler paused, letting the mist envelop them fully. They were no longer walking. They were floating in the forest, suspended in its slow pulse. Their minds softened, edged thoughts dissolved, and only sensation remained: the cool touch of mist, the gentle sway of bamboo, the faint rhythm of falling water, the soft caress of light through fog. Time seemed to stretch infinitely. Minutes became long, pale threads woven into the forest's breathing. The traveler's body relaxed entirely, their shoulders melting into a calm. weightlessness, their legs releasing tension as though the earth itself were holding them gently. The mist moved with a quiet intelligence, curling around the traveler, swirling and rising, then slowly settling again. It blurred the line between body and air, between forest and dream, between sound and silence. The traveler surrendered to it fully, feeling themselves become part of the flow. High above, light shifted subtly, flickering in the haze. Shadows of leaves swayed slowly, creating fleeting patterns that the traveler barely noticed, yet felt as part of their own gentle rhythm. Breath became almost imperceptible, flowing in harmony with the soft, continuous movement of mist, leaves, and water droplets. The forest seemed to whisper there is nothing to do, nowhere to go, only this calm, this slow, endless quiet. The traveler closed their eyes. Shapes dissolved entirely, leaving only warmth, soft weight, and the ever-present pulse of the bamboo forest's gentle breathing. All thoughts faded, all worries faded. Even the memory of stepping into the forest had dissolved into the rhythm of mist, the music of water, and the slow dance of bamboo. And as the traveler drifted, the fog seemed to cradle them, soft and constant, its cool touch gentle against skin, its endless embrace blurring the line between dream and wakefulness. The forest waited, silent and patient, its whispers rising and falling, its mist curling endlessly around. The traveler, holding them in the slowest, deepest peace. Chapter 4: The Forest in Slumber. The bamboo forest seemed to grow quieter as the traveler moved deeper into its mist-filled heart. Sound, already soft, dissolved even further, until every drop of water, every whisper of wind, merged into one continuous, gentle hush. It was as though the entire forest had surrendered to sleep. The bamboo stood tall, yet carried the posture of deep rest, their long stalks relaxed, their leaves drooping slightly beneath the cool weight of morning dew. Even the light drifting through the mist felt drowsy, thick and slow, moving with the calm certainty of a world that did not need to hurry. The traveler walked slowly, their steps almost weightless now. The moss underfoot was soft as cloth, soothing the feet with each gentle press. Mist curled around their ankles, rising and falling in soft, sleepy waves. The forest exhaled, or perhaps the traveler did. It was impossible to tell. The two rhythms had merged, breath echoing breath, movement echoing movement, until body and bamboo seemed to sway with the same quiet pulse. Light filtered through in faint, shifting glows, not beams, not rays, but gentle washes of pale color that drifted like watercolor on wet paper. It settled on leaves, on droplets, on the traveler's hands, warm for a moment before fading into the endless mist. The air carried a faint scent of bamboo shoots and damp moss, a clean, earthy fragrance that seemed to slow the traveler's heartbeat with every breath taken. Their eyelids grew heavy, not from fatigue but from the forest's quiet invitation to let go. A soft breeze brushed by, so gentle it felt like a caress. It stirred the highest leaves, sending a small wave of motion downward through the towering stalks. The bamboo responded with the faintest whisper, a hush of leaves brushing one another, soft as fabric dragged lightly across a floor. The traveler stopped. The world did not. Or rather, it moved in its slow, dreamlike way, mist curling, light shifting, bamboo breathing. Another droplet fell. Then another. Each landed with a gentle tap, soft and round, as if placed rather than dropped. Their rhythm was steady, like quiet notes from an unseen instrument. The traveler closed their eyes again. The forest seemed to draw closer, not physically, but in presence, softly surrounding their senses like a blanket warmed by breath. They felt the gentle sway of bamboo, the cool mist brushing their cheeks, the soft ground supporting their weight. They felt the world easing, loosening its hold, sliding into the calm rhythm that came only with deep rest. Thoughts drifted slowly, untethered, like fallen leaves floating along a quiet stream. They rose, turned, and disappeared with no urgency and no destination. The forest shifted again. A soft wave of mist moved through the grove, a silent tide that filled every space with cool, gentle air. The traveler felt it pass through them, like a slow breath. The bamboo swayed as though dreaming. Their leaves rustled as though whispering in sleep. And the traveler, standing quietly in the heart of the grove, felt themselves drifting downward, not falling, not sinking, but settling gently into the deepest layer of the forest's slumber. Here, there was no distinction between the world and the self. No boundary between the air and the body. Only calm, only quiet, only the soft, continuous hum of a bamboo forest that had chosen to rest beneath the pale morning mist. Chapter 5. Drift within the silent green. The silence deepened as the traveler moved farther into the bamboo forest. What little sound remained seemed to dissolve into the mist-heavy air, leaving behind a world so quiet it felt suspended in time. A droplet fell far above a tiny movement, a soft shift of weight in a leaf, but the sound reached the traveler like a memory of a sound, already fading by the time it arrived. The bamboo stood tall, motionless for long moments, then swayed in a slow, gentle wave. a movement so gradual that the eye could barely detect it. It was like watching the subtle rise and fall of someone sleeping deeply. Light drifted through the mist in muted, pale layers. It had no direction, no clear source. It simply existed, a soft glow that rested on the bamboo, passed through the fog, and then faded into the soft green-gray air. The travelers stopped walking. They no longer felt the earth beneath their feet. The ground was soft, pillowed by moss, but even that sensation seemed distant. Now, like remembering the feeling of lying on a warm bed from somewhere deep within a dream. The mist rose slowly, curling around their knees, their arms, their face. It enveloped them, warm in places, cool in others, moving in long, fluid motions that felt almost like the forest was breathing around them. The bamboo swayed again. A quiet wave passed through the grove, as gentle as the ocean's tide far from shore. The traveler felt the motion in their chest, a soft pull, a slow release, their breath aligning with the forest's rhythm without intention. A faint hum filled the air. Not sound, not exactly. More like a vibration, a resonance that flowed through mist and bamboo and settled gently within the traveler's body. It felt like warmth spreading, soft and heavy, through their limbs. Their eyelids grew heavier. Their shoulders loosened. Every part of them seemed to drift as though caught in a slow current of air and fog. They inhaled. Mist rushed in, cool, clean, full of the scent of young bamboo and wet earth. They exhaled. Warm breath joined the mist, dissolving instantly, becoming part of the forest's quiet tide. Thoughts melted, one by one. Worries, memories, intentions they softened on drifted away like leaves carried off by a gentle stream. A soft light flickered above, filtered through layers of mist, then faded again. There was no sense of day or night, only the quiet certainty that time had slowed to match the forest's own pace. The traveler lifted a hand. It felt weightless, as if it belonged to the mist itself. Their fingers parted the air gently, but the movement left no trace. The mist flowed back without resistance, calm and seamless. Bamboo leaves trembled faintly overhead, a movement so subtle that it felt imagined, yet the traveler sensed it, a delicate shiver in the air, a whisper with no sound. And slowly, steadily, their minds slipped further into a dreamlike calm. They no longer felt themselves walking. They no longer sensed the boundary of their own body. They drifted, held by the cool mist, the warm breath of the forest, and the slow, deep pulse of bamboo in morning rest. The world around them became one continuous softness. Light, fog, breath, motion all blurred together into a single, endless calm. The traveler breathed again a slow, heavy breath, and the forest breathed with them. And in that shared rhythm, they drifted further inward, further downward, into the quiet, silent, green world beneath waking and beneath dreaming. Chapter 6. Beneath the Pale Mist. The mist deepened until it no longer seemed like air, but a soft, luminous veil gently wrapped around the world. It thickened with each breath, turning the bamboo forest into a quiet ocean of pale green and white. Shapes softened, edges blurred, distance vanished. The traveler could not tell whether the nearest bamboo stalk was an arm's length away or several steps beyond. Everything dissolved into gentle gradients, white into green, green into gray, gray into stillness. Sound faded, not suddenly, but steadily, as though each remaining note was quietly placing itself to rest. First, the faint tapping of droplets. Then the soft rustle of leaves. Then the murmur of the forest floor. One by one, each sound folded itself into silence, until only the slightest pulse remained a soft, rhythmic presence, so faint it felt imagined. The travelers stood still, not because they wished to, but because the world had become so peaceful that movement felt unnecessary, almost out of place, like disturbing the surface of a perfectly still lake. The mist curled gently around their hands, their shoulders, their face. It grew warmer close to the skin, cooler farther away. It shifted with the slow rise and fall of their breath, creating soft, moving layers that felt like blankets gently tucking them in. The bamboo around them appeared only in outlines, tall shadows, slender and pale, like distant figures standing watch in patient silence. A soft breeze flowed through, but its touch was so delicate that it felt only like memory, a sensation halfway between warmth and coolness, a breath upon a dream. The traveler's eyelids grew heavier still. Every blink took longer to open. Each time their eyes closed, the mist behind their eyelids felt just as bright as the mist before them. There was no longer a clear division between the inner world and the outer world. Breath slowed. Thought slowed. Even the sense of time stretched thin and quiet. The forest's presence was soft and steady, not pressing, not surrounding, but gently holding. Bamboo leaves overhead shifted slightly, and the traveler felt it not as sound, but as a faint vibration in the air, a small pulse that reached their skin like the quiet rhythm of a lullaby with no melody. Mist thickened once more, blurring the world further, until the traveler could no longer tell if their eyes were open or closed. Light and darkness became the same soft shade. Warmth and coolness merged into a single, soothing sensation. Up and down, left and right, all direction faded like footprints in drifting snow. Only calm remained. Only stillness. Only the deep, quiet breath of a forest resting beneath mist. The traveler felt themselves sinking gently, not downward, not into the earth, but into a deeper layer of quiet. A sense of floating arose, light and effortless, as though the mist itself was carrying them with a slow, steady motion. Their body loosened, relaxed, softened, until even the ideof boundary between self and world dissolved. The forest seemed to hum with a faint, slow heartbeat, one that matched their own. And in that shared rhythm, the traveler drifted further into stillness, resting in the deepest calm the bamboo forest had yet offered. Chapter 7: The Threshold of Dreaming. The mist grew so dense that it became indistinguishable from the traveler's own breath. Each inhale felt like drawing in light. Each exhale like releasing a soft cloud back into the world. The bamboo forest, once tall and clear, now appeared only as faint silhouettes, gentle strokes of pale green against an endless white haze. But even these shapes seemed to drift farther away with every passing moment. Sound had nearly vanished. The quiet was so complete that it felt alive, a soft, warm presence resting against the traveler's skin. No footstep echoed, no leaf stirred. Even the distant hum of the forest's pulse had grown faint, like something remembered from a long time ago. The traveler took a slow step forward. They felt no pressure on their foot, no shift of weight. Only the sense of moving into deeper stillness. The ground beneath them felt impossibly soft, as though they were stepping onto layers of mist itself. Their body felt lighter, almost insubstantial, like a shape made of breath and warmth rather than solid form. They paused. The forest did not respond. Or perhaps it did, but in a way so subtle that it blended seamlessly into silence. A faint glow drifted above, not from the sun, nor from the sky, but from the mist itself, as if the light were blooming from everywhere at once. The traveler lifted their hand. It appeared blurred, its edges dissolving into the haze, though its skin and the mist were made of the same soft substance. They turned their palms slowly. It felt warm, weightless, a part of the stillness rather than separate from it. The bamboo shapes around them shifted gently, not swaying, not moving, but fading and returning in slow, calm breaths, as though the forest itself was slipping into a dream-filled rest. For a moment, the traveler wondered if they were still standing at all. Their legs felt light, their arms fluid, their breath suspended between waking and drifting. The mist rose higher, curling around their cheeks, their eyelids, their thoughts. Its touch was cool, almost sleepy, like a quiet hand resting gently against the side of the face. The traveler's eyes grew heavy again. Every blink lasted a little longer. And each time their eyes closed, the world behind them looked almost the same, white, soft, drifting, endlessly calm. They inhaled. They felt the scent of bamboo deep in their chest, light, green, clean. A scent so gentle that it seemed to lower the very weight of their thoughts. They exhaled. A wave of warmth spread softly through their limbs. The forest breathed with them a slow, gentle rhythm until breath and silence became the same thing. A faint tremor passed through the mist. Not a sound, not a movement, but a subtle shift, as though the boundary between the present moment and the first layer of dream had thinned. The traveler felt it, a slight opening, a gentle falling inward toward a softer world. The bamboo shapes faded further, becoming outlines, then impressions, then simply a feeling of tall, calm presence somewhere beyond the mist. The last sensations began to soften. Warmth, the slow rise of breath, the faint glow of light. All began to feel distant. All began to feel gentle. All began to feel like the quiet moment just before sleep takes hold, the moment when thought loosens, when breath deepens, when the world tilts softly into a dream. And the traveler stood quietly upon that threshold, drifting, weightless, held by mist and silence as their consciousness prepared to slip into the deepest rest. Chapter 8, where silence becomes sleep. The mist had grown so soft, so utterly quiet, that it no longer felt like something surrounding the traveler, it felt like something they were gently becoming. Each breath blended into it. Each heartbeat softened within it. Thoughts, already slow and delicate, now unfolded so gradually that they barely formed at all before dissolving into the stillness. The bamboo forest, once towering and vivid, now lingered only as a memory, a warm, gentle presence felt rather than seen. Its tall shapes were faint impressions in the mist, like distant lanterns seen through closed eyes. The traveler took another slow breath. It flowed so quietly that the exhale felt more like drifting than breathing. Their chest rose only slightly and sank again with the softness of a falling petal. The ground beneath them felt impossibly gentle, a cushion of moss hidden beneath a blanket of fog. But even that sensation grew faint, as though the earth itself had lifted them just a little off its surface. They felt weightless, as if their body were dissolving into the same quiet air that held the forest. The last hints of sound slipped away. There was no tapping of dew, no whisper of leaves, no hum of distant wind. Silence wrapped around everything with such complete stillness that the traveler wondered if the world had paused just for them. But the silence was not empty. It held warmth, a gentle, living quiet that embraced the mind like soft, warm blankets laid one after another over tired shoulders. The traveler closed their eyes again. This time, they did not rush to open them. The darkness behind their eyelids felt no different from the mist around them, both pale, both soft, both endlessly calm. A tiny spark of awareness floated up, a thought, or perhaps a memory. The sound of bamboo rustling somewhere far away, the tender clatter of hollow stalks touching lightly in the breeze. But the memory faded before it fully formed, slipping like water through opened fingers. The traveler's breath slowed to a serene rhythm. Inhaling a cool, misty quiet fills their lungs. Exhale warmth drifting outward, vanishing into the air without a sound. Their shoulders softened. Their arms felt warm and distant. Their legs relaxed completely, as though resting on thick, gentle clouds. No edges remained, no boundaries. They felt not like a figure in a forest, but like a soft shape of breath and calmness settling into a cradle of pale morning mist. The bamboo presence grew fainter still. It became a subtle glow, a soft vertical warmth felt somewhere beyond sight, guiding the traveler like a gentle hand, resting close, but not touching. The mist brightened slightly, not with sunlight, but with a quiet inner glow, a glow that seemed to arise from the traveler themselves. Their thoughts stretched thin, fragile, and light, as if drifting at the very edge of dreaming. Another breath. Slower. Softer. Their awareness floated gently, like a lantern released into still water. The world felt warm, then light, then distant. The boundary between waking and sleep thinned until it was little more than a quiet breath's width. A gentle heaviness settled over their mind, like the slow closing of a soft door. The bamboo, the mist, the earth beneath their feet, all of it began to feel like part of a dream waiting to unfold. The traveler drifted one heartbeat deeper into stillness. And then another. And then another. Until there was almost nothing left but calm. A calm so complete that it seemed to hold the entire forest within one quiet exhale. The last train to Hakone prologued the station at night. Night had settled gently over the quiet outskirts of Tokyo, wrapping the small station platforms in a blanket of soft shadow and warm, amber light. The last train bound for Hakone rested on the tracks like a calm, sleeping creature, its windows glowing faintly, its metal frame humming with a low, steady breath. The station was almost empty. Only the echo of distant footsteps and the whisper of the evening breeze moved through the still, quiet air. The travelers stepped onto the platform, their coat brushing lightly against the crisp night. A faint chill lingered, but it was the gentle kind, the sort that told the body it was time to slow down, to soften, to rest. Above, the sky stretched wide and serene, a deep indigo washed with drifting clouds and the pale glow of the moon resting behind them. The lamps along the platform cast long, narrow shadows that swayed slightly in the breeze, as if bowing to the approaching quiet of the night's final journey. The train doors opened with a soft, sigh-like sound. Warm air flowed outward, carrying hints of metal, fabric, and the faint aroma of tea left behind by earlier passengers. The travelers stepped inside. The lights overhead glowed dimly, perfectly suited for tired eyes. The seats were empty, waiting. The car hummed with a gentle vibration, barely perceptible, as though preparing to cradle whoever chose to rest upon it. Outside, the night deepened. A soft announcement echoed a calm, almost whispered reminder that this was the last train to Hakone. The travelers settled into their seat. The doors closed. The lights flickered once, then steadied. And with a smooth, slow motion, the last train began to move, sliding quietly into the night, carrying its single passenger toward the mountain sand, the deep, peaceful darkness that awaited there. Chapter 1. Through the quiet suburbs. The train glided forward, its wheels humming softly against the cool metal rails. The sound was steady, a rhythmic, soothing whisper that blended seamlessly with the quiet of the night. Outside the window, the suburbs drifted by. Clusters of warm, yellow-lit houses rested calmly beneath the sky, their curtains drawn, their rooms hushed. A few late-night shops still glowed faintly, their signs flickering as if growing tired from a long day. The traveler leaned their head against the cool window. The glass vibrated gently, transmitting the train's slow heartbeat directly into their bones, a soft, lulling rhythm that made their eyelids grow heavier with each passing moment. The train passed over a small bridge. Below, a narrow river reflected the lamps that lined the path. The water moved slowly, as if reluctant to disturb the peaceful night. Trees appeared, slender shapes rising along the edges of quiet neighborhoods. Their leaves rustled softly, whispering to the night air in a language older than the tracks beneath the train. Inside the car, the lights dimmed slightly as the train moved farther from the city center. Shadows lengthened. The gentle vibration deepened. The soft sway of the train became more pronounced, like a cradle easing into a slower, more restful rhythm. The traveler exhaled, their breath fogging the glass for a brief, delicate moment. The warmth faded quickly, leaving only the cool touch of the night beyond. A faint announcement chimed so soft it felt like a dream. No urgency, no rush. Just a quiet reminder of the approaching next stop, a name carried by the wind and swallowed gently by the tires of the train rolling steadily onward. Lights from passing houses grew fewer. Buildings became smaller, more spaced apart. The world outside began to darken, to quiet, to breathe deeply with the slow, calm rhythm of night settling over the distant mountains. The traveler closed their eyes for just a moment. The train rocked softly, like a slow tide. The hum of the rails filled the space around them like a low lullaby. And as the last hints of the city faded behind the train like fallen embers, the night ahead grew deeper, cooler, and infinitely calm, pulling the traveler gently toward the quiet, sleep-filled journey that awaited deeper in the dark. Chapter 2. Into the darkening countryside. The train eased farther from the city, its gentle sway settling into a calmer, slower rhythm as it moved into the sleeping countryside. Outside the window, the lights thinned until only scattered lantern-like glows marked small clusters of homes resting quietly beneath the moonlit sky. The traveler opened their eyes again, their gaze drawn instinctively to the widening darkness. There was no feeling of worry, no tension, only the peaceful understanding that the world beyond the glass was growing softer, quieter, and wonderfully still. The sky deepened into a velvet blue-black, the kind of night that felt as though it had been waiting for a long time to simply exist without sound. Clouds drifted slowly across it, thin and pale, their edges illuminated by the faint glow of the moon nestled somewhere behind them. Far off, the silhouette of low hills emerged, gentle shapes rising from the earth-like waves of dark ink. They appeared and disappeared as the train curved around bends. In the track, each shift in direction revealing new stretches of shadow and faint glimmers of distant light. The traveler's reflection flickered faintly in the glasses, the interior lights dimmed further. Their features appeared soft and hazy, blurred by the motion of the train and the steady rhythm of passing telephone poles that cast momentary lines across the window. Inside the car, the sound was steady, the soft, even hum of the engine, the gentle rattling of distant couplings, and the faint whisper of air slipping past the exterior as the train pushed deeper into the countryside. It was a peaceful sound, a constant presence that soothed the traveler like a familiar lullaby. The traveler shifted slightly, letting their shoulders relax and allowing their body to settle more fully into the warm seat. The cushioning felt deep and soft, inviting them to sink slowly into its quiet embrace. Another breath, slow, warm, steady. The kind of breath that makes the body heavier and the eyelids softer. Outside, a small village approached. A few houses lined the tracks, their windows glowing with gentle, amber light. Curtains swayed faintly behind the glass, suggesting quiet movements. Within a late cup of tea, a lamp being turned low, a final moment of wakefulness before sleep. The train slowed slightly as it passed the village's tiny station. There was no one waiting. No footsteps. No movement. Just a lone vending machine glowing dimly in the corner and a bench dusted with fallen leaves. The doors did not open. There was no need. The train rolled past as gently as a sigh. As the station lights faded, the darkness grew deeper again, a vast, quiet landscape stretching out on both sides of the tracks. Fields lay still beneath the night, their surfaces smooth and lightly silvered by the hidden moon. Occasionally, a narrow road cut through the fields, its asphalt reflecting a faint line of light from somewhere unseen. The traveler watched it all with a softened gaze, their mind drifting in slow, even waves. There was nothing to analyze, nothing to decide, nothing to anticipate. Only the quiet passage through the sleeping countryside, carried effortlessly by the steady motion of the last train to Hakone. A cool breath of air passed through the car, soft, refreshing, touched with the faint scent of distant mountains. It hinted at higher altitudes ahead, at forests and winding roads, at the vast quiet that awaited deeper in the night. The traveler inhaled slowly. The air felt clean, gentle, perfect for letting loose the day behind them. The rails hummed in a deeper tone now, as though the train were moving onto older tracks that had carried countless travelers through the same peaceful darkness on their way to the mountains. And the night outside grew smoother, quieter, darker still, like a soft, endless blanket waiting to welcome the traveler's drifting thoughts. Chapter 3: The Slow Ascent into the Mountains. The countryside had grown so dark that the world outside the window seemed almost weightless, a quiet tapestry woven from shadow and faint, pale light. The last hints of the town had long since fallen away, and the train now followed a gentle upward curve, its wheels humming softly as it began its slow ascent into the mountains. The traveler felt the shift before they even noticed it, a subtle change in the rhythm, a slightly deeper hum in the rails, a cooler breath of air that drifted lightly through the quiet car. The air carried with it the faint scent of cedar and stone, like the distant memory of a mountain trail resting somewhere just beyond sight. The traveler let their eyes close again for a moment. The motion of the train rocked them gently, as though the night itself had become a cradle. Thoughts loosened, unraveling one by one into soft, indistinct impressions. Outside, the mountains rose slowly from the darkness, first as faint silhouettes, then as deeper shapes, their outlines forming a quiet horizon that seemed to breathe. Mist gathered along the slopes, thin and drifting, lit only by the faint glow of the train's passing lights. It curled lazily around the bases of the trees, as though reluctant to let the night move forward. The bamboo of earlier chapters was gone nowhere. Cedar and pine stood sentinel, their tall trunks fading into the deep blue-black sky above. The branches stirred faintly in the night breeze, producing only the gentlest rustle, a sound so light it felt more imagined than heard. The traveler leaned their head against the window frame, feeling the cool glass beneath their skin. Each breath grew slower, steadier, as the soft rhythm of the rails guided their body toward deeper stillness. Lights appeared only rarely now, a lone cabin, its window a dim square of amber, a small shrine hidden among the trees, its lantern flickering softly as though greeting each passing traveler. A thin road curving along the mountainside, shining faintly in the distant moonlight. These brief flickers of light came and went like slow, sleepy thoughts, each one fading gently before another appeared. The train's interior was even quieter now. The few remaining passengers were half asleep, their breathing steady, their bodies settled deep into the soft seats. The traveler felt themselves mirroring that stillness, their limbs heavier, their thoughts quieter, their awareness thinning into a warm, pleasant haze. The night outside pressed close to the window, not in an unsettling way, but with a kind of welcoming softness, as though the darkness itself were guiding the train along the mountainside. Far above, stars emerged slowly through the drifting clouds. They shimmered faintly, their light delicate and cool, like distant lanterns shone in the sky. The mountains grew steeper, their slopes dense with silent trees. The train curved gently along narrow tracks cut into the mountainside, its lights casting long, slender shadows that slid across the forest floor and disappeared again into the night. The traveler inhaled deeply, the cool, clean air filling their lungs with the calm of higher altitudes. A deep exhale followed, slow, smooth, almost soundless. Their eyelids fluttered, heavier than before. The motion of the train felt softer now, as though it, too, were settling into a quieter rhythm for the journey ahead. Thoughts drifted once more, slowly dissolving into warm, muted impressions, the glow of a shrine's lantern, the scent of pine, the cool touch of mist, the gentle sway of the train. Outside, the mountains welcomed them with deepening silence. Inside, the traveler drifted a little closer to sleep. And the train continued its climb, slow, steady, carrying its quiet passengers through the peaceful dark toward the heart of the mountain night. Chapter 4 Through the Veil of Mountain Mist. The train drifted into a thicker, paler world. It happened so gradually that the traveler at first did not notice the change, the subtle dimming of the night, the way the silhouettes of trees grew softer, less defined, as though they were being painted over with a thin layer of moonlit watercolor. Then the mist appeared fully, gathering in long, delicate ribbons that floated across the track sand, curled upward into the waiting branches of the mountainside forest. The world outside the window became a soft haze, its edges melting into pale gray-white stillness. The traveler's breath slowed unconsciously as they watched the mist deepen. Each inhale pulled in a sense of cool softness, and each exhale released a little more tension from their body. The train's headlights pierced only a few meters ahead, revealing faint outlines of drifting vapor that swirled gently before dissolving again into the night. Sound changed too. The rumble of the rails grew softer, muted by the mist and the thick forest around them. It became a low, steady hum, a quiet vibration that moved through the floor, climbed into the traveler's legs, and settled gently beneath their ribs. A lullaby of motion, a cradle of sound. The traveler let their eyes half close, the world beyond the window blurring into gentle shapes, a faint line of a branch here, a soft glow from a hidden village there, the slow, drifting movement of white mist across the tracks. The deeper the train went, the thicker the mist became, until even the forest appeared only as soft shadows, tall, waiting silhouettes standing silent and unmoving on either side of the rails. The traveler wondered briefly if the train were slipping not just through the mountains, but through something older, calmer, a quiet layer of the world untouched by sound or time. A place meant for rest. A place meant for release. The windows grew cooler, and when the traveler placed their fingertips against the glass, they felt the faint chill of the mountain air seeping through. Tiny droplets of moisture formed delicate patterns along the edges, catching the soft light from inside the car like pale beads of silver. The mist outside shifted and rolled with each movement of the train, almost as if it were responding, opening gently to let the carriage pass, then closing again in slow, graceful swirls. The traveler inhaled, eyes drifting shut for a few long moments. When they opened them again, the world had changed once more. A small clearing appeared, a brief opening in the forest, and within it, a cluster of stone statues stood quietly in the mist. Their shapes were softened by moisture, their surfaces glistening faintly, as though they were breathing right along with the night. A single lantern glowed beside them, its flame barely visible through the drifting fog. The train passed by without disturbance, its hum never rising, its light never flaring. It moved with the gentleness of a long-held exhale, leaving the statues to watch the hills in their timeless silence. The traveler felt their eyelids grow heavier still. Their thoughts drifted into long, slow currents that hardly resembled words. The world inside the train became a cocoon of dim amber light, soft hums, cool air, and the deepening quiet of the mountain night. The world outside became nothing but mist and shadow, both blending into a soothing softness that asked nothing and expected nothing. Just rest. Just breathing. Just the slow passage through the veil-off mountain mist. Another breath, long, warm, quiet. The train continued forward, carrying the traveler deeper into the soft, pale world where night and dream were beginning to overlap. Chapter 5: The Silent Heart of the Mountains. The train moved forward with barely a whisper, its wheels gliding along the tracks as if floating. The mist outside thickened, softening every edge, blurring the mountains into vast, indistinct shapes. The traveler leaned back, their head resting lightly against the seat. The warm amber light from above bathed them gently, like a soft pillow for tired eyes. The air inside the car was quiet, only the faintest movement of air currents stirring the scent of the evening and the subtle coolness from the mountain peaks. Outside, shadows of tall trees rose and fell like slow waves. The fog hugged the mountainside, curling around trunks and rocks with a calm, deliberate patience. The sound of the railshod diminished to a distant hum, like the gentle heartbeat of the earth itself. The vibration rose through the floor, softening in the traveler's legs, spreading warmth through their chest, and easing the mind into a slower, steadier rhythm. Mist moved through the trees, rising in ghostly columns, sand drifting silently across the tracks. The train's lights made them glimmer faintly, then fade again, like memory or a soft, half-remembered dream. The traveler closed their eyes. The world outside merged with the darkness within. Breath and hum became one long, even, slow. The body felt lighter, as if the mountains themselves were holding it gently within their quiet heart. A distant glimmer of light appeared, a small lantern, or perhaps the reflection of the moon on a wet rock. It shone softly, briefly, then was swallowed again by the thick, pale mist. Time seemed irrelevant. Minutes and hours melted into the slow sway of the train and the deep, unwavering calm of the mountain night. The traveler felt their shoulders release completely. Their arms softened, their legs grew heavy, and each heartbeat was a subtle drum that echoed in step with the train's gentle motion. Another breath. Long, effortless, pulling in the cool night air, letting out warmth into the quiet car. And another. Slower still. Each one drawing the traveler further into the deepening calm. The mountains loomed silently, their forms softened by mist. The trees, the stones, the faint glimmer of lanterns all merged into one vast, still presence that carried the traveler with gentle certainty. No thought, no worry, no motion disturbed the stillness. Everything outside and inside was one seamless softness where the last train and the sleeping mountains moved together in harmony. The traveler felt themselves drifting, not downward, not forward but gently, effortlessly, into the quiet heart of the mountain night. The mist curled closer to the windows, then around the train, and finally, around the traveler, enveloping them in a pale, soft embrace. Breath, heartbeat, vibration, mist all flowed together, slowly, steadily, until the traveler was floating within the deep, silent heart of the mountains. Chapter 6. At the Edge of Dream. The train crested the mountainside, and the world outside dissolved into pale, shifting fog. The trees, the stones, the tracks themselves all faded into a soft, endless whiteness, like a blank page waiting for a dream to be written upon it. The traveler rested against the seat, their eyes half closed, breathing in rhythm with the gentle sway of the car. The hum of the rails had become almost imperceptible, a soft, continuous vibration that seemed to rise from the mist itself. The air was cooler here, yet comforting, like water slowly enveloping a tired body, both refreshing and easing every tense fiber. Shapes appeared briefly through the fog, the faint outline of a distant rock, the shadow of a lone tree, a glimmer of light from a lantern long since extinguished. Each one lingered for a moment, then faded, softly swallowed by the advancing mist. The traveler's thoughts thinned. Images rose and fell, like tiny echoes of something half-remembered, and then they were gone. Breath and heartbeat took their place, steady, even, carrying the body and mind into a slower, gentler rhythm. The train swayed lightly as it moved along the fogged track. The motion was barely perceptible, like the slow rocking of a cradle or the drifting of clouds across a still sky. Every sound outside had softened wind, trees, distant water. Even the faint rustle of bamboo further down the mountainside had vanished into silence. Within the car, the soft amber light glowed, casting long, diffused shadows that merged with the fog beyond the windows. It was a world where inside and outside were indistinguishable, a quiet, gentle continuum between waking and sleeping. The traveler closed their eyes fully now. The seat beneath them felt like it had dissolved. The hum of the rails felt like the pulse of the mist itself, and the air wrapped around them with the softness of a familiar embrace. Time no longer mattered. Moments stretched and blended into one continuous stillness, as the train carried the traveler through the pale, drifting fogan into the edge of dream. A faint, warm glow brushed the eyelids, like the memory of sunlight filtered through clouds. It had no shape, no sound, only presence, as gentle and steady as the breath that flowed quietly through the traveler's body. Thoughts dissolved entirely. Breath and heartbeat were all that remained, moving in perfect harmony with the slow, unbroken motion of the train and the endless, silent fog. And in that fragile, luminous stillness, the traveler felt the faint, whispering pull of sleep, soft, inevitable, as the mountains held the last train end. The mist held the mountains, and the night held them all in its infinite calm. Chapter 7: The Quiet Beyond Silence. The mist thickened until it no longer felt like weather but like a vast, gentle sea through which the train drifted without resistance. Outside the window, all form had dissolved. There were no trees, no stones, no curve of mountain path, only a pale, endless softness that held itself in perfect stillness. The traveler breathed slowly, the air cool and feather-light as it moved in and out of their lungs. Each breath brought an ever deeper calm, as though it carried the quiet weight of the mist directly into the body. The hum of the railshod had grown so faint that it was difficult to know whether it came from the train or the traveler's own heartbeat. The rhythms had merged, one gentle pulse, steady and warm, echoing through the subdued world. The interior of the car had dimmed further, the amber light softening into a warm haze that brushed lightly across the traveler's face. Their body felt heavier now, comfortably anchored, as if wrapped in layers of quiet warmth. The muscles in their shoulder had released entirely, their hands resting in their lap with a pleasant, effortless stillness. The train entered a long, gradual curve. The motion was slow, almost imperceptible, but the traveler felt it a gentle shift, like floating on calm water or being guided by unseen hands toward a deeper realm of rest. The windows around them were pale with condensation. Droplets clung to the glass, sliding down in slow motion, each one catching faint glimmers of light before disappearing into the mist. Beyond them, nothing remained visible. No shapes, No shadows. No lights. Only the soft whiteness that stretched infinitely in all directions. The traveler's eyelids fell, halfway closed, the world narrowing to warm light and rhythmic motion. Thought drifted like drifting vapor, thin, loose strands that gently unwound before finding any form. A soft exhale. Warm. Even. Barely audible. Then another. Slower. Deeper. Letting go of everything that still lingered in the mind. The train moved through the mist with the calm presence of something ancient, a vessel guided not by tracks but by the quiet breath of the mountains themselves. The traveler felt this presence, not as a thought, but as a faint warmth beneath the ribs, a sensation of being held, carried, protected. The world seemed to fade to a single point, a gentle pulse that marked the border between waking and dream. The mist thickened again, so complete now that even the soft glow of the train's interior seemed suspended within it, floating in a warm, muted void. The traveler's head tilted slightly, finding a naturally comfortable angle. The body softened, breath eased, and the mind drifted to the final edge of consciousness. Nothing moved quickly. Nothing demanded attention. Everything flowed, like the slow rise and fall of calm ocean water at night. The rails hummed one last, steady vibration, long, low, almost like a gentle sigh. And then the traveler felt it, a subtle shift, a deep inner release, as though their awareness had taken a final small step into the quiet beyond silence. The mist held the train. The train had the traveler. And the night held them both in a soft, endless calm. Chapter 8, where motion fades. The train began to slow. It was not abrupt, not even noticeable at first, a subtle easing of the rhythm, a slight lengthening between each soft vibration of the rails. The traveler felt it before they realized it, the shift from forward motion to something quieter, gentler, a long exhale after a deep, steady breath. Outside, the mist had grown so thick that it seemed no longer to drift or move. It hovered in perfect stillness, a pale, unmoving see-through which the last train floated with dreamlike calm. The world beyond the window was nothing but white, as if the mountains themselves had disappeared into an endless silence. The traveler's vision blurred slightly, their eyes slipping in and out of soft focus. The warm light inside the car felt distant now, as if shining from the far end of a tunnel, but not cold, not unreachable, simply gentle and serene. Their body felt heavier, the weight pleasant and anchoring, as though gravity itself had softened, wrapping them in a warm blanket of stillness. Each breath was slow, almost suspended between inhale and exhale. The warmth of their breath filled the space around them, while the cool mountain air whispered faintly through the quiet car. The train eased forward a little more, the vibrations fading into the soft hum of a long, drifting sigh. Nothing outside moved. Nothing inside is pressed or pulled. The world had shrunk to the warmth of the traveler's seat, the dim glow overhead, and the nearly imperceptible motion of the last train as it slowed within the mist. For a moment, it felt as though the train were no longer moving at all, only resting, floating, held gently aloft in the quiet embrace of the mountains. The traveler's head tilted against the back of the seat. Their eyelids trembled once, then relaxed completely. Breathing deepened, slow, warm, comfortably heavy. The world inside their mind softened to faint impressions: the cool scent of cedar, the pale glow of lantern seen earlier on the journey, the gentle curve of the rails guiding them upward, into the night. These impressions drifted, slipping effortlessly into a hazy quiet where thoughts dissolved before they could take shape. The last sound the traveler registered was the whisper of the rails, no longer a steady line of hums, but a soft, intermittent pulse, like waves brushing against a shore in the dark. Then even that faded, leaving only silence. Not an empty silence but a full one, rich with the presence of mist and night and mountains. A silence that held and soothed and welcomed. The train glided ever so gently, as if drifting through a dream. And the traveler's awareness floated beside it, sinking deeper and deeper into rest. Chapter 9: A station hidden in silence. The train slowed again. This time, the traveler felt it not in movement, but in the way sound faded, how the soft hum beneath the floor thinned, stretched, and then drifted away like a sigh disappearing into cold mountain air. The world outside was still nothing but mist, a pale endlessness without shape or distance. But somewhere within that whiteness, something began to form, so faint, so gentle, that it felt more imagined than seen. A glow, soft, warm, motionless. It hovered in the fog like a lantern lit far, far away. The traveler blinked slowly, their eyes heavy, vision deepening into softness. The glow brightened not harshly, but like dawn seeping through paper shoji screens. The train drifted closer. The faint outline of a platform appeared in the mist, not clearly, but as a suggestion, as though the mountain itself had shaped a station from frost and silence. The train's motion became almost imperceptible now. Each moment felt suspended, paused between breaths. The traveler inhaled. The air was warm and calm inside the car. They exhaled. The windows frosted faintly with the softness of their breath. A gentle chime sounded not loud enough to disturb, only a small, distant note, a tone that seemed to float rather than ring. It faded slowly into silence. The traveler's mind dimmed a little further. Thoughts fell away like leaves drifting onto still water. The platform drew closer, emerging fully from the mist, a quiet place of pale wood, soft lantern light, and a canopy of cedars leaning protectively overhead. The snow on the roof was untouched, perfect, a smooth white blanket glowing faintly in the night. The train came to a stop, but not with a jolt. It merely settled, as though resting after a long, gentle glide. Stillness filled the car, deep, soft, complete. The traveler did not move. They felt the weight of the moment wrap around them like a warm quilt, heavy enough to comfort, light enough to let them drift. Their eyelids lowered halfway, then more, until only a thin sliver of warm light remained. They breathed again, slow, unhurried, the kind of breath that comes only when the body feels utterly safe. Outside, a single snowflake touched the window, melting instantly into a tiny droplet that traced a faint line downward. Another snowflake followed, then another. Soon the world was filled with soft, fluttering silveras. The snowfall deepened, silent, slow, and endlessly calm. The traveler's vision blurred. Shapes softened. Colors faded. Only warmth remained, warmth and the quiet rhythm of their own breath. The station lights shimmered gently through the snow, like stars reflected in still water. The traveler exhaled one more time, a long, slow breath that carried away the last traces of waking thought. And in the calm that followed, the boundary between train, station, and dream began to dissolve. Chapter 10: The Snow That Listens. The train remained perfectly still. Not a tremor, not the smallest vibration of metal or rail moved through the floor. It was as though the last train had become part of the mountain, a quiet shelter woven into the hues of falling snow. The traveler barely noticed the moment when motion became stillness. Their mind had softened into a warm, drifting haze, and time moved now only in slow, gentle breaths. Inside the car, the air was warm and dimly lit. The lamps overhead glowed with a softness usually found only in early morning light, the kind that touches the world before birds begin to wake. Outside, snow fell in deep, steady silence. The flakes were larger now, floating slowly, carefully, as though they, too, did not wish to disturb the quiet. Each one touched the roof, the rails, the wooden platform so softly that the sound could not be heard, only felt as a kind of gentle weight upon the night. The traveler breathed in. Their chest rose slightly, then sank again. The weight of the air inside their body matched the weight of stillness outside the train. Their thoughts had grown thin and light, soft ribbons of awareness that drifted without direction, without urgency, without form. The window beside tembled with frost gathering at the corners. The faint outline of the snow-covered platform slowly faded until only a warm glow from the station lanterns remained visible through the white. Even that glow seemed to drift farther, as though the world was gently sinking into soft cotton. The traveler's eyelids grew heavier, not abruptly, but gradually, the way snow accumulates and branches through the night. Their head tilted a little more against the seat back. Their breathing slowed until it moved with the quiet rhythm of snowfall. A single thought surfaced, a warm, small feeling that did not need words. I can rest now. The world heard it. The snow listened. The mountain listened. Even the train, quiet and unmoving, seemed to listen with the patience of something ancient. The silence deepened. Not empty, never empty, but full of gentleness. The kind that settles around a tired mind and tells it that it does not need to stay awake any longer. The traveler exhaled slowly. Their breath fogged the window one last time, a soft cloud that bloomed, then faded. Outside, the snow thickened, erasing the platform, the trees, the lanterns, all becoming part of the same quiet whiteness, like a dream beginning before consciousness fully slips away. Inside, the traveler drifted closer to sleep, held gently in the stillness of the unmoving train. The snow continued to fall with infinite patience, each flake landing without sound, without hurry, as if everyone were a tiny whisper telling the traveler, rest, rest, rest. Chapter 11, Drifting Between Waking and Dream. The traveler hovered in a gentle place between waking and sleep. They were not fully aware, yet not completely lost in dreams. Their mind floated light, soft, unanchored, like a small leaf resting on quiet water. Inside the train, the stillness deepened. The warm glow of the interior lamps softened further until the light seemed not to shine, but simply to exist, a gentle presence, barely brighter than the quiet darkness around it. The traveler felt weightless. Their body grew warm and deeply relaxed, as though the sea thawed become a gentle bed woven from evening air and soft mountain silence. Their arms loosened. Their fingertips slackened. Their breath became so slow, so delicate, that each exhale seemed to drift away like a thread of mist. Outside, the snowfall had thickened to the point that nothing remained but pale, swirling softness. The mountains, the station platform, the lanterns, all had dissolved into a single quiet whiteness. The snow moved lazily, as if floating underwater. Its rhythm matched the traveler's breathing, or perhaps the traveler's breathing matched the falling snow. It was impossible to tell. A faint sense of motion touched the traveler, not real motion, but a gentle drifting of the mind itself. Like sliding down a soft slope of feathers. Like being carried in a warm, invisible current. They were aware, for a moment, of their own thoughts. But each thought was soft-edged, unformed. Barely a whisper. "Is the train moving?" The question surfaced quietly, like a bubble rising to the surface of a lake. It did not matter. The question faded before an answer could take shape. It dissolved into the warm haze that surrounded them. The traveler blinked slowly, or perhaps they only imagined their eyelids moving. The world behind their eyes glowed faintly, the same gentle amber as the lamp lights. Sound disappeared completely now. There was no hum of rails, no whisper of wind, not even the soft patter of falling snow. The silence had grown so deep that it seemed to absorb even the idea of sound. The traveler's breathing became the only movement in the world. A rise, a fall, soft warm, soft release. They let themselves drift a little further. Somewhere distant, a memory surfaced, the faint outline of a mountain path, the smell of cedar, the soft light of late autumn dusk. But it was not a real memory. Not something from the past. It felt instead like a dream the world was offering them, a quiet scene to rest inside. The traveler followed it, not with footsteps, but with feeling. They allowed the image to gather around them, the warmth, the softness, the slow, drifting calm. Their head tilted gently to one side. Their shoulders loosened fully. Their mind began to sink into the final layer beneath thought, beneath awareness, a layer made only of rest. Outside, the snow kept falling, patient and infinite, as if it had all the time in the world. Inside, the traveler drifted deeper into the quiet, held gently in. A place between waking and dream, a place where nothing moved, where nothing demanded, where everything existed only to soothe. And slowly, softly, the boundary between the train and the dream began to blur. Chapter 12. Downward into the quiet dream. The warmth of the train seeped deeper now, gently filling the traveler's body as though they were sinking into a soft pool of still water, one without depth, without edge, without fear. Their breathing drifted into a rhythm so slow and so subtle that it no longer felt like something they were doing, but something the world was doing for them. The amber glow of the lamp dimmed further, not because the light was fading, but because the traveler's eyes could no longer hold the brightness of the waking world. Colors softened to gold. then to pale warmth, then to something like the memory of a color once seen long ago. The train interior blurred slightly, as though viewed through a thin layer of dream fog. The traveler did not mind. They simply let the soft haze settle around them, wrapping itself around every thought until even thoughts became too heavy to rise. Outside, the snow continued falling, slow and patient and endlessly gentle. But to the traveler, the snowfall felt different now. It no longer looked like separate flakes. Instead, the entire world outside the window seemed to be covered by a single soft, white veil, a blanket of calm drawn over the mountains, the station, and even the sky. The traveler blinked once, slowly, and the world shifted. The train car seemed larger now, not physically, but in the way dreams reshape space. The ceiling felt a little higher. The shadows are a little deeper. The light is a little warmer. Their body felt distant, as though floating just a few centimeters above the seat. Their hands rested softly at their sides, but the sensation of touch seemed muted, gentle, half-dreamed. A soft warmth spread from their chest to their fingertips, to their legs, to the quiet space behind their closed eyelids. Then something shifted in the silence. It was not a sound, not even the hint of one. It was more like a change in the texture of stillness, a deepening, a soft pull, as though gravity itself had grown quieter. The traveler felt a slow downward motion, not physical, but within the mind. Descending, drifting, lower and lower still, into a quiet that had no end. A dream began to form, soft, faint, barely more than a whisper. It did not appear all at once. Instead, it rose gently from the darkness behind their eyes, like mist rising off a still lake. Shapes, light, a hint of a path between tall trees. A glow that might have been lantern light or moonlight or something else entirely. The traveler did not question it. Dreams required no questions. The train around them felt softer now, its edges blurred, its details fading into the warm, gentle hue of something half-remembered. Even the sense of sitting on a seat began to dissolve. There was only warmth and quiet, and the slow downward pull into a deeper layer of rest. The traveler's breathing became so light that it felt more like drifting than breathing. Their thoughts stretched into long, slow shapes that melted before they could form words. The downward motion deepened, soft, weightless, like falling through a cloud made of warm night air. A gentle pressure settled behind the travelers, eyes pleasant, comforting, a sign that sleep had wrapped its hands around their awareness and was guiding them toward its quiet center. The dream grew brighter, yet not harsh. It glowed softly, the way snow glows in the light of a distant moon. The traveler followed it. They did not choose to. They simply drifted, carried by the momentum of their own falling piece. The world of the train faded to a warm blur. The dream opened like a slow blooming flower. And the traveler descended into it, quietly, without resistance, without thought, a gentle slide into the deepest rest. Chapter 13 The Dream Beneath the Snow. The traveler drifted fully beyond the edge of waking thought. There was no sense of opening or closing their eyes. The transition into dreaming was so gentle, so gradual, that it felt less like entering a dream and more like sinking deeper into the very same quiet that had embraced the train. At first, there was only warmth, not from the lamps, not from the seat, but from everywhere. A warmth that held no source, only presence. It filled the traveler in the same way soft snow fills a silent valley. Then, a faint brightness emerged within the darkness. Not sharp, not defined, just a glow, the memory of light, the hint of illumination, rising gently like a lantern seen through fog. The traveler did not move toward it. They simply floated, and the dream carried them as if on a slow, invisible current. Gradually, the glow widened. Forms appeared, not clear shapes, but soft impressions, like watercolor strokes blending into one another. Something like a path. Something like trees. A sense of being surrounded by tall, quiet forms that swayed gently without wind. The traveler felt no need to see clearly. The dream was not asking them to understand, only to rest within it. The path beneath them was neither earth nor wood nor snow. It felt instead like the memory of a step, a sensation unconnected to any real surface. Their body felt weightless. Or perhaps their body had been left behind in the quiet warmth of the train. Even awareness of having a body softened, thinned, and drifted away. The glow above became brighter, but only in the gentlest sense, like dawn filtered through layers of silk and mist. It did not illuminate the world so much as suggest it. The traveler sensed the faint outline of bamboo, or maybe cedars, or perhaps only the ideof tall, restful shapes guiding them onward. Every sound was absent. Even the memory of sound felt distant, like a forgotten note that no longer wished to be recalled. Silence became the air, the ground, the space between dream forms. It was not empty. It was full, a soft fullness that carried the traveler as surely as wings. A gentle pulse moved through the quiet. A slow rise, a slow fall, the rhythm of deep breath from something larger than the traveler, perhaps the mountain, perhaps the night, perhaps the dream itself. The traveler followed it. downward, deeper, calmer. Every trace of waking thought dissolved like snow melting on warm hands. The path or the feeling of a path curved gently. Not left, not right. Just a soft shifting to a deeper layer of calm. The glow above became softer still, fading to a light that did not shine, but remained a gentle presence within the dream. The traveler drifted through this light, letting it wrap around them like a warm veil. At the edges of perception, the last train lingered for a moment, not as a machine of metal and rails, but as a soft image, a distant comfort, a warm lantern resting on the snow. Then even that image faded, slowly, beautifully, with the patience of deep night. The traveler was left in pure quiet, the heart of the dream held softly by the weightless snow that fell not from the sky, but from the vast, peaceful silence within. They drifted deeper still, with no need for direction, no need for memory, no need for anything but rest. And the dream opened wider, its warmth endless, its quiet infinite. Chapter 14 The Quiet Without Form. There was no path now. No trees. No snow. Not even the memory of the train's warm interior. All of it had dissolved into a soft, endless quiet, a quiet so deep that it no longer felt like silence, but like the natural state of the world. The traveler drifted through this softness as though moving through a gentle, colorless sea. There was no sense of direction. No up, no down, no forward, no return. Only calm, only warm, only the faint impression that something, some presence was holding them, not with hands, but with the simple, comforting certainty that they could rest as long as they wished. Light existed, but without a source. A glow that did not shine on anything in particular, and yet illuminated everything with a pale, serene warmth. It felt like the after-image of dawn seen behind closed eyes. Shapes tried to form within the glow, but they were too gentle to become anything concrete. A curve of white. A faint arc of brightness. A soft shadow drifting past. Nothing stayed. Everything passed like a thought forgotten in the same moment it arose. The traveler's breathing slowed further still, to the point where each inhale felt like floating upward a few centimeters, and each exhale felt like sinking into a deeper layer of warmth. The distinction between breath and stillness blurred until breathing itself felt optional, an action so effortless that it seemed to happen without them. They felt weightless again. But this time, even the idea of weight began to fade. Their hands, their arms, the shape of their body all grew vague, soft, as though covered in layers of gentle mist. The traveler did not mind. In this place, to forget the edges of oneself was not frightening. It was soothing. This was a deeper kind of rest. A rest beneath thought, beneath memory, beneath dream image sand sound and form. Here, there was nothing that required attention. Nothing that asked to be understood. Nothing needed to be followed. Only quiet. A quiet that waited patiently, expanding slowly like a tide rising in the darkest hour before dawn. The traveler drifted with it. Their awareness thinned until it felt like a single thread, barely shimmering, floating lightly in the warm emptiness. They sensed, faintly, the presence of something familiar, a distant echo of the last train's warmth, its gentle lamps, its steady rhythm. But it was not a memory of machinery or rails. It was simply comfort, carried forward into this formless quiet. The train had become rest itself. The night had become shelter. The snow had become silent. And the traveler had become still. A long moment passed, or perhaps no moment at all. Time had no rhythm, no markers, no meaning. There was only breath, soft and slow. There was only quiet, deep and warm. And there was only drifting lower, softer, into the calm beneath all things. The glow dimmed further, not fading away, but settling, like a lantern placed gently behind thin silk. The traveler followed it, their awareness dissolving a little more with every slow breath. Soon, even the faint ideof drifting began to soften. Rest deepened, quite expanded. The world around them became seamless, whole, and endlessly gentle. Nothing remained but calm, and the traveler sank into it with complete peace. Final chapter: the quiet that sleeps. There was nothing now. No glow. No drifting. No memory of how the journey began. Only warmth. A soft, steady warmth that held the traveler as gently as night air resting on still water. Breath slowed further, a faint rise, a soft fall, barely perceptible. The quiet deepened into something almost physical, like a blanket woven from calm itself. There was no need to hold on to anything. Not shape, not name, not thought. Everything loosened and drifted away like petals released into a quiet stream. The traveler felt a slow, settling heaviness, the kind that comes just before sleep takes the final step. A pause, a calm, a soft dark. And then, even the pause grew quiet. Even the calm softened. Even the dark smoothed out into something warm and weightless. There was no difference now between the traveler and the stillness that held them. Both were the same quiet, the same warmth, the same peace, a breath slow, soft, almost not there. And then the world lowered its voice one last time. Everything became gentle. Everything became slow. Everything became asleep. Good night.